It's Dr. Manny. Welcome to Asylum. The idea we're looking at right now is twisting temptation. So, the end goal would be to have an understanding of temptation in various different forms to the point where you can recognize it when it shows up, and not only that, and not only seeing it and not letting your mind and your actions and really your bigger narrative be taken down this path where you're robbed of your potential success, but how to start capturing uh, those signals in your environment so that either before temptation shows up, to take a right turn onto your path, or when temptation signals show up, you're able to recognize them as an opportunity to see that you can have that level of promise of pleasure and to fuel your own goals and your own pursuit of the things that are more intentional with that same level of intensity. Because the reality of it is that when you look at how powerful and magnetic a temptation can be, imagine how it would feel to have that level of pull every day, just drawing you and attracting you towards your bigger dreams, your own outcome, your own successes. Now, the trick about it is that really most things that are tempting to you are a result of a story. Usually a story put in by some marketing company, the promise of some deep unconscious desire as part of your identity, part of your story, part of what you believe is what it takes to be the complete you. Because we all have the drive for self-completion, this fulfillment of these needs that we have in us since childhood. And but our culture has gotten used to doing, has gotten very good at doing as a means of propagating the culture itself. If you, a lot of models of thinking about culture talk about how it's this living organism, this collective unconscious that's evolving faster than we are because it's had years and way more information. If you imagine something like Google search or Twitter going viral, think of that as sort of an embodiment of the unconscious, collective unconscious. So there's this temptation that's constantly coming along. So how do you recognize that temptation? How do you capture that energy? And how do you create, in Napoleon Hill's book, he calls it a burning desire. How do you create that much firepower, that much passion and draw behind your own vision? How do you make something that you want to accomplish that magnetic so that not only are you propelled towards it, but that so that people who come in contact with the story, people who you share your passion with, can see your vision, and if it's aligned with their desired outcome, if it's their path, they can jump in there and and it can serve them as well, and they can be equally invigorated, equally inspired, and equally energized. So how do you twist temptation that way? Okay, so let's step back a bit and look at really what does it take to first of all recognize your temptation. Most people acknowledge their temptation in a vacuum. They're like, I'll be tempted by this, I'm tempted by that. Um, some of it is like biblical temptation, lead us not into temptation. And you don't think about it, what's the alternative? For a lot of people, we imagine fighting temptation involves standing there looking at a delicious piece of cake, face pressed up on the glass, drool on your lip, and just bare knuckle fighting that temptation, just sitting there or walking away still thinking about it. But most of the data shows that that doesn't work. What works is recognizing that you're in the midst of the temptation and redirecting yourself. So the next question is, well, what are you going to redirect yourself to? You want to redirect yourself to something more deeply and powerfully meaningful. And this is not easy. This takes repetition, takes practice, and it takes a decision that you really want the bigger thing. Now, that involves creating a vision and rehearsing a vision of whatever goal it is you want. If you want to be in shape, You got to make the vision of yourself beautiful and in shape more beautiful, more powerfully attractive than the vision of delicious cake. Because cake is really delicious. It really is. So you got to build up that image. You got to rehearse the image, and not only that, you got to rehearse the image of your future, the thing that you're delaying your pleasure for, so they feel like you're there. And you have to have that confidence that you're going to be able to attain it. So that means you got to start planning the steps and start thinking the steps, and then start recognizing which steps the temptation is keeping you from fulfilling. If the temptation is a gambling temptation, while you're standing there in front of a slot machine, you've got to be visualizing uh, more than visualizing the story of how the lights feel good and the music is going, and every time you pull the arm on the slot machine, you feel like you're close to a win. You've got to, every time you pull the arm on the slot machine, be visualizing that family vacation that you're burning the money from, because realistically, that's what you're doing. You're eating away at that money. And you got to visualize the vacation so viscerally that the vacation becomes even more tempting. And to be perfectly honest, you got to take a bit of a step back. You got to look at earlier signs of the temptation. So most marketing has it organized and strategically placed so that you have all these cues telling you a story, promising you the win, all the way to the casino. And I'm using casino examples. They've mastered that. All marketing does this, but the casino. I have some history working um, with gambling and making stuff addictive. So I'm really familiar with the path for that. So we're talking about beginning with the TV commercial. When you see everyone else having fun at the casino, you start thinking, that's me. That could be me. But you got to be in it to win it, as the lottery says. You got to be there. You got to take your chance, and then you start visualizing the win, and they start ramping up the stakes where you can win a bigger number. You see somebody winning a car. You see somebody surrounded by his friends. He's cool and whatever, all because he's in the casino. He's got free drinks, all that stuff. So they lure you into there. By the time you've worked your way into the casino, you've already imagined that, you know what, I'm either going to win or I'm going to have a blast losing. So you're going to go ahead and grab all those free drinks, disinhibit yourself so that you're no longer thinking about anything but how much fun you're having in this casino. You're going to have a couple little mini wins that you're going to convince yourself were worth all the money you blew. But in the end, you fall into this slippery slope of temptation. Now, as you watch that process unfold, instead of saying, wow, I can't beat this, it's important to notice how you're being tempted. Notice your particular buttons. Is it the lights? Is it the music? Is it the friends surrounding you? Is it possibly, the free alcohol there? Is it the adoration that you're imagining of people when you pull that slot machine handle, and all the clanking sounds are attracting people to let them know you're a winner? Which deeper need are they hooking into and promising you with a story? And then you got to turn around, and when you set your own goals, you got to tap into those needs, your own needs. You got to ask yourself, what are the things that you really value? What are the things that are most rewarding to you? And start visualizing your visions with those things in play. Whether it's a family vacation, whether it's a weekend of peace, whether it's an addition to your house, a video game room downstairs, a movie room downstairs that the family can enjoy, until you make that thing clear to the point where you can obsess over it through repetition, through elaboration, through studying every nook and cranny of it, to learning what it's going to cost to get the projector for the big screen, what the cost of your favorite layback chair is, what the cost of having the different levels of the seats if you're going to have stadium seating in your in-home theater, what it's going to cost to get the right carpet in there, what the lighting's going to look like. Until you're painting it that vividly, there's no way on earth it's going to compete with a strategic marketing campaign that is leading you down this path to this other temptation that they're going to use to get your money out of your pocket, get you off your diet, get you out of your house from your family, arguing with your loved ones, or whatever you see yourself willing to do to escape to this into this story, to this identity. So you got to create a competing narrative, and even beyond that, you got to make that narrative so vivid that you know all the little pieces of it. Again, with the home theater, you got, if you know the price of the chairs, then if you're offering, price of seats, and you go in the store, you try the seats out, and you lean back in it, your chair feels good, and while you're there, you have the salesperson walk you through all the features, smell the leather, take that all in, and do that every couple of weeks. Drop by and check that out. That's the vision aspect you hear people talking about doing, that visualizing, that immersing yourself in the vision. Go to the home theater place, check out the screen you want, check the pricing on that. Imagine when you're gonna get it, and then start storing the equipment in your basement or in your attic, wherever you store stuff, as you start building it, or start putting stuff together. Put a smaller TV there that you can watch downstairs while you're planning to have the projector down there. It's just, you have to start building pieces of the counter vision, so that this other strategic place marketing vision that's sucking your energy and your money away from the bigger dream, so you can see when each piece is missing. If you go to the casino and you lose a few $100, then you can say to yourself, well, that was the ottoman, that was the little table, that was the glass set at the bar down there that you intend to have in your entertainment room. Lose the time. Appreciate it. If the thing that is most valuable to you is this deep, loving relationship with your spouse, then until you realize and you do the math and you're like, okay, if I'm spending an hour a week at a casino and I come back home and argue 3 hours, and this amount of money is lost, and we're not doing our dinner that we would enjoy, or I'm working overtime to go to the casino, and that's time I'm not getting with my kids. Until you step through those elements of the part that you want, and you vividly build out that part that you want, and you admit to yourself the pain and regret of losing that opportunity, you're not gonna be able to fight the temptation. You're not gonna be able to twist that temptation energy into something that empowers you. So as you start rehearsing this vision, as you start practicing pieces of the vision, you become defensive and protective of that vision. It becomes increasingly meaningful. So every time you resist the temptation and you build a little piece of the vision and you measure that progress, it becomes more valuable. It's a big thing that your identity that you're losing if you stumble into temptation. Now, this works whether you're talking about a substance use situation, whether you're talking about even workaholism. If you find that you're a workaholic and you're tempted to work a bunch of more hours, then you got to look at the counter vision. What's waiting at home that you would prefer to tell yourself the work story over? What element of communication could be improved within your household such that you're tempted to go home, that you look forward to going home? What argument is it that you need to go ahead and resolve that's been seething there, so that you can go back to having the kind of relationship where you can't wait to run home? And possibly, in a lot of situations, you'll find that a tension in the home between the adults is creating a barrier to both of the adults enjoying the presence of the kids, because the whole environment becomes this toxic situation where dad is staying at work late, or even mom is staying at work late, workaholic style, coming home late, using the tired excuse to be in a certain zone with folks at the house, being low key with the kids, too tired to help with whatever. And you get these cascades of things that become this negative, that create this huge window where temptation can create a story that, whether it's infidelity, stopping by someone else's house who doesn't have that argument with you, and forgetting that on the other side of at home, you're missing all the beautiful things that could happen with the kids and all that, until you build out and paint out that picture of what you're truly missing, to the point that it's tempting and attractive enough for you to overcome whatever barriers. There's always going to be temptation offering you a quicker and easier way to get that fix, an easier, faster way to meet that need without facing the fears, without growing to overcome the limitations. But in the end, what you'll end up doing is creating a story of your life where you succumbed and gave up to repeatedly these outside temptations. Now, what doesn't work for temptation, resisting temptation, is you guilting yourself. Because when you guilt yourself, all you're doing is creating these boundaries around things that now make you want them even more. And what you end up doing is you tell yourself, I'm not going to have this cake. And then you're like, well, you're such a pig, you're always eating the cake. And then so every time you are around the cake, you have that pig instinct and you insult yourself and you do the negative self-talk. And yet you don't give yourself an alternative, a place to release that tempted energy, a way to meet that need. And so that cake is always there waiting, delicious and tempting, and you're always there calling yourself these negative names. Now, what eventually ends up happening is at a certain point, after you've held out for a certain amount of time, you're like, I deserve cake. And so you go in and you binge on the cake because you've earned it. You make this reward that has this pull over you and you fall in and with this loss of control. Whereas if you took that temptation, that cake, and you put it as a reward on the way to what you want to accomplish, then the very item that is serving as temptation can be a part of the reward system that you use to expand into your better self. And you would enjoy the cake more because now the cake or even the casino visit within the context of the life that has more pleasure, more intentional pleasure that you've crafted based off the things that you find tempting. The cake or whatever temptation was originally a distraction, was originally the source of weakness, becomes a stimulus that you can use to pull yourself forward towards the things that are deeper and more meaningful, yet less visceral. So that's the way of using the delay of gratification instead of using a guilt approach. Instead of doing things like self-talk and punishment that weakens you from actually pursuing the goal, weakens you from pursuing your larger, grander self because you're damaging yourself with these insults, and as such, you're stifling your ambition, you're stifling your curiosity. And this is a large part of what we've been taught to do in our culture, where we use punishment when we're succumbing to a temptation, when the temptation is human. And these temptations have been engineered, and they are improving exponentially because marketing is getting better by the second. As soon as a meme goes viral, somebody has to figure out a way to make something go more viral. So the only way to compete with that is to shift those temptations by initially twist those temptations into something powerful by visualizing the things that you want most deeply, the things that define you as who you are, the things that by accomplishing them, by making the sacrifices to pursue them, you become a more deeply elaborated, more self-confident, self-efficacious, unfolded, complete version of yourself. With those clearer visions, then putting the reward elements on the other side of that, so that way you have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. So you go through the process of doing the things that make you into this stronger, more self-efficacious, more autonomous person, living in alignment with your values, less resentful that you're being deprived of these elements of reward, elements of fun, but more in control of the way in which you can consume them. And as such, when you descend upon them, even then, you're able to consume them in controlled amounts because you've created a habit of control and not in a negative way as if you feel that you have an external locus of control. So it sounds simple and it's really basic steps. But when you're in the moment, it takes a bit to take a breath, step back, look at the bigger picture. Look at the story you're telling yourself. What is it that this temptation is promising you? What deeper need is it symbolically meeting? And how can you step back, choose to make a deeper, more powerful, more nurturing meaning yourself? And how can you take these things that are sapping the energy from your life and convert them into powerful forces to pull you further forward in unfolding yourself, your best self, your most productive, most empowered self, and still get an occasional taste of these pleasures, but in a form in which you don't destroy your self-narrative, you don't destroy your sense of agency, you don't feel as if your character is taking damage. So that is Twisting Temptation. It's Dr. Manning. Thanks for joining me in Asylum. I'm out.